Chicano Park. Giant, colorful, tattooed arms of concrete and steel sprout forth open hands to grasp tightly onto a suspended roadway over a piece of land, small but sacred, in which a single race of people gather to celebrate an indigenous unity. Tourists of fluorescent skin, descendants of those who have conquered, enslaved, imposed their laws upon my brothers and sisters, come again from parts of Europe to steal our mural art with fast-clicking cameras manufactured in the land of the rising sun, duplicating our personal tributes to the spirit of life itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thrivecast. This is your host, Stuart Joseph, and today we're going to have the modern-day warrior, Lucky Two Tears Morales, who wants to share his story with us and also talk about how he's creating awareness to end Chicano on Chicano violence. For more than a decade on every Sunday, Lucky Two Tears Morales laced up his steel-toed boots, wrapped a bandana across his forehead, and slipped on his black fingerless gloves to march the streets of southeastern San Diego alone. Lucky has walked the same route through some of the area's toughest barrios, beginning the walk each Sunday in Sherman Heights, continuing through Chicano Park, Barrio Logan, and ends up in the Shelltown National City area, all to promote peace among warring Chicano gangs here in San Diego County. His tools for change is an oversized Mexican flag, a symbol of common heritage and culture that he hopes will cement emotions of unity among gang members he passes. Lucky's intentions isn't necessarily to get rid of gangs, but to educate gang members to deal with their problems in a less violent way. Lucky says the new generation of gangs are quicker to pick up guns and solve disputes with their fists. I am against that degree of violence. I am against any degree of violence that ends in death. Since his first Barrio Unity walk on November 4th, 1996, Morales has become a fixture in the neighborhoods he passes through. I wanted to really quick be clear to our listeners that us here at Thrivecast promote and assist in creating a total nonviolent culture. We do not promote any degree of violence. Through education and healthy debate, we will one day create the nonviolent culture that we all wish to see for our children. And we understand that in order to get that main goal of a nonviolent society, we must first take baby steps and get the future leaders to put down the guns and stop wasting away their future. Hey, Lucky, it was really good having you. It's really good having you, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me here.
Definitely. So, kind of let us know a little bit about you, man. What was it like growing up in Otay Mesa, watching gang violence, take away each one of your friends one by one?
Well, we came from Arizona back in the early 70s, and we settled in a little barrio called Del Sol. And as we reached our adolescence, I come from a family of four sisters. One of my sisters got really deep into playing the gangbang role. I mean, so deep that she was no nonsense. She put in big time work for the gang, for the homies, for homegirls, and with that, we became very tight with the people that for homeboys,
right?
And they were like family to us. So, she was so entrenched into this gang life thing that, we were watching, we're also watching her homeboys die or become crippled or end up in prison.
Right.
And it was like it impacted us.
But growing up, you didn't want to follow that same trend.
No.
What made it so you didn't want to be
I was the oldest, so it would be, common that I would be getting into the gang.
Right.
But what was it? Ask that again.
I'm just saying, what made you want to stand out and do something different instead of following, what's so easy for everybody else to follow?
I think it came from my artistic nature. I was able to see that it was another avenue as opposed to gang violence. I always showed an interest in art and writing poetry. So back then when my sister was playing the gangbang role, I used to vent my frustrations on her lifestyle through art and poetry. I used to do these pencil sketch drawings and write poetry and submit them to local Latino publications, mom and pop publications in the neighborhood. And that was my way of venting my frustrations.
So when so many youngsters were out there trying to earn their stripes, was it difficult for you to be kind of doing something different than everybody else?
It never made any sense to me, Raza killing Raza. One time I was chilling with my brother, and he said, "You know what, Lucky?" He goes, If this is what it means to be Mexican, what our sister's doing, this whole gangbang thing, I don't want to be a Mexican. I refuse to kill my own people over some street sign stuck in cement or a few square blocks of territory that we could never buy, sell, nor own. And I remember that to this day. It was a very powerful thing that he said. And I use that to this day. That was like my way of, I don't know, it was like my little piece of my testimony, staying out of the gangs and staying away from that lifestyle, because it wasn't the true example of being Chicano.
Right, right. So in your opinion, what is the true example of being a Chicano?
Appreciating our culture, embracing our history, respecting our elders, respecting our raza, no matter what barrio they're from. We're all Mexicanos, we're all Chicanos. One way or another, we're all connected, we're all intertwined. So it doesn't make sense for us to kill our own people. Our backs are against the wall as it is. We have too many obstacles, too many things that stand against us. We need to stand united,
right?
Divided.
Now, reading a little bit about you, about you from, I think it was the KUSI website I was on a few minutes ago, and hearing that you don't necessarily want to end gangs, but you want to end the violence between the gangs.
I'm not anti-gang.
Right.
I'm anti-gang violence.
It's always going to be gangs. I totally understand that aspect, because it's an interest to me. So it's something that I've looked at, and I see why gangs were even started to begin with back in the day. As a way of creating community, and it wasn't about the violence when it first necessarily started. It more became that way when drugs and money and things like that started getting in the picture, in my opinion. Right. But so, in your opinion, why is it so important for us to still have gangs but not have the violence?
Because the gang culture is a subculture within our Chicano culture, and we have to embrace it. We can't sweep it under the rug.
Right.
I advocate for the carnales, for the homeboys, the street soldiers. I'm there for them. I'm an affiliate of the End Barrio Warfare movement, and the whole purpose of being affiliated with the End Barrio Warfare movement is to meet them face to face, to help them solve their problems and help them to keep promoting peace between the different barrios. That's what I'm all about. So I'm not there to try to pretend that they don't exist.
Right.
Because in a way, the whole crazy life thing it has a beauty to it. There is a beauty to it. But the only thing that's poison is when they're gangbanging against each other, killing their own people.
And realistically, gangs could be a good thing for our community if used in the right way.
Right.
So what do you think is that division? Why are we killing each other? Why are black and black killing each other? Why are brown and brown killing each other? I mean, why is that happening?
I mostly know about the Chicano culture. With the blacks, with the African American communities, their wars are mostly based on materialism, the drugs and the money and the material things, the women and stuff like that. And they seem to be more mobile, where they set up networks in different areas, and they've even been known to fight against each other, Crip against Crip, blood against blood, and black against black. Well, in the barrios, it's barrio against barrio, and you don't see homeboys from the same barrio fighting against each other over who's going to sell the most dope or who has the most money or anything like that, because that's a sign of disrespect to your homeboys and to the barrio.
And
it's a whole different trip.
There's a total different culture, total different.
Socially and economically, we're in the same boat, but we're two different cultures, two different entities.
Right.
And personally, I don't like to be compared to our counterparts that we share the barrios with, but because of the fact that we are different, so.
And that's the amazing thing, is that there's so many differences in the two cultures.
Yeah.
Yet there's so many common things as well.
Similarities, yeah. Like with the Chicano gangs, they like to embrace the whole oldies thing.
Right.
And the majority of oldies type music are sung by African American artists.
Right. No, yeah.
Like
that soul, that good old soul.
The Anthony and the Imperials and Billy Stewart, Smokey Robinson. Some of our favorite singers that sing our best jams are sung by the blacks. So there are some crossover similarities, but we are still at the same time we're different.
So in the Chicano community, it's it's literally all about building your community, helping each other out, doing, making sure that your neighbors are good and all that kind of stuff, to where even in the white communities and other communities, it's shunned upon to even like look at your neighbors. Why is it why is it become from such a beautiful culture to where now we're kind of recognizing the violence in it, especially within our youth? Why is there such a rise in violence within our youth?
Well,
why is it so easy for youth to pick up a gun?
Because it's easier to solve your problems with a gun. I guess that's their mentality, their mindset. I have a son that does. He's a mixed martial artist,
right?
Cage fighter,
right?
And this kind of confuses him too. He says, Dad, I grew up around this too. Around the barrio and everything, and have cousins from Logan and from Del Sol and everything. And I'm not picking up a gun to solve my problems. I settle my problems in the steel cage.
Right.
And I think some of these, these cowards with guns, just shoot people at random, should drop their guns and pick up their fists and settle it like that. Because you could walk away from a butt kicking. But
and here's the thing. We fear, as a youth and stuff like that, we fear getting our ass kicked. We don't want to get our ass kicked. But at the same time, we don't realize that the consequences of picking up that gun, it not only affects the person that you shoot at, but it could affect you. You get caught, you're done.
Exactly.
At 16 years old, you're gone. You could be gone for life.
Exactly.
And you still have so much beautiful life to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're only 16 years old. It's sad. It's super sad.
What a lot of people need to be aware of in the Chicano barrios, drive-by shootings are prohibited. Are against the unwritten law that was passed down during the early 80s by our carnales, by the guys who are in prison, because of the fact that there are no sharpshooters or marksmen in gangs. And these guys that were doing these drive-by shootings weren't even hitting their target. They were hitting small children, someone's grandma, just somebody walking to the store, as opposed to their intended target. So that's why they put out this unwritten law, no more drive-bys. And what they need to understand is the statute of limitations on that has not expired.
Right.
It is still active, and there's still consequences if you are caught doing that. But not by the police, but by La Raza.
Right. And thank you for clearing that part up, because that's a huge thing. In the last couple of years here in San Diego, drive-by shootings have been going on the rise, especially when you look in areas like in National City, in Logan and stuff like that. All of a sudden, there's becoming a lot of drive-bys in those areas by what we're starting to notice are young kids.
Young kids that are not aware of the unwritten law.
Right.
Young kids that will suffer the consequences once they're incarcerated, and that's a fact.
Do you feel like the OGs have kind of let go and kind of turned a blind eye to it, and that's why we're seeing so much of it continue to rise?
Well, right now I notice that there's a lot of violence within the Chicano communities down more in the South Bay area, like in Otay, Paradise Hills, Chula Vista. But because of the Barrio Unity Walk and the aftershock is still going through the neighborhoods, there's not a lot of violence, because I how do you say, correspond with a lot of the main people from Sherman and from Logan, from National City, Lomas, and we are doing our best to keep the youngsters in check. And I always hear from John Soderman from KUSI saying, you know what, Lucky, up through Logan Heights, we never go rush to any stories about any heavy violence in these neighborhoods, because we know the impact that you had made with the Barrio Unity Walk.
One of the things that I'm curious to know, Lucky, maybe you have this answer, maybe not, but if there's an unwritten law from the older homeboys about there's no drive-bys, why isn't there an unwritten law about let's just stop killing each other? I mean, if we're getting along in prison, why can't we get along out here? What's the difference between prison and being out here? Let's just stop killing each other. Why isn't there an unwritten law regarding that?
I think it's because some of the youngsters haven't had a taste of that incarceration phase, so they understand that there are rules that they need to abide by. These are just new generations of kids that some of them don't even have a record.
Right.
Police record, never been to juvenile hall, maybe like once or twice, but they're not aware of the politics until they hit the jail, until they hit prison. Then they understand what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. I know that there's always going to be gunplay in the barrios because, there's certain types of politics that you cannot touch. But as a member or someone who affiliates himself with the Embodied Warfare movement, there's certain things that I can call them on, like the, random drive-by shootings or just senseless acts of violence.
Right.
But there are certain politics that do involve, you have to be dealt with, and with that, you just have to stand back and just kind of bite your tongue.
And hopefully one day we'll get to a society where none of that is even needed. But we understand what we're really facing in our society today.
Right.
And it's good to dream. It's good to dream. But in retrospect, what is it going to take really for the youngsters to kind of understand it? So because you're saying they don't really understand it until they get to until they actually go to prison and they actually get they learn the politics from the older homies that are there. But what's it going to take for them to learn before that? Because like you're saying, their first case might be 45 to life. When you get out, it won't matter what you learned inside.
Yeah, sometimes the worst lesson is their own, death, their own death. The ultimate consequence.
Yeah.
I believe in this old saying, "What comes around goes around." I believe in karma, and I believe that it does come around and bite you in the ass if you're not
true.
If you keep
True.
out there messing around, doing stupid stuff.
So I know that you said that you kind of put the Sunday walks on hold right now, but I know you're not just chilling on Sundays. You're doing something on Sundays? Tell us about the shut down the shoe movement that you got going on.
Yeah, I started to shut down the shoe movement after a little while after I retired the Barrio Unity Walk in 2013. I started advocating for the brothers that are suffering in the security housing units throughout prison systems of California and beyond. Being a voice for them, advocating for their for better treatment, for better living conditions. A lot of people believe that these guys that are in the shoe, a lot of them are murderers and this and that, and that's not true. Some of them are just so-called general population shot callers that they removed from general population, thinking that they wouldn't be able to run things by sticking them in this shoe unit, in this place. So a lot of them are deprived of sometimes weekly showers and recreation, sometimes proper meals, writing or communicating with their family. Because I correspond with a couple of them, and there's times where they've written me and tell me that they withheld my mail from going out to my mom, or they'll ask me, "Oh, you wrote me, Lucky?" And I'll say, "Yeah, I didn't get it." They'll withhold their mail.
So all this great stuff, I mean, you're an advocate for change inside of our community. It's not like you're getting paid millions of dollars to do this stuff. You're doing this literally from the heart. What keeps you going every single day to be a voice for change?
I think it was a vision that I had when I was a little boy.
What was that vision?
When I was about 7 or 8 years old, one of my favorite little games that I used to play all by myself was pretending to be on the news. It was like I was having premonitions or visions of what is happening now. And I didn't understand it back then, but that was like my favorite game. I'd walk out there in the field and pretend like I was being interviewed for doing great things for whatever reason. I don't know.
Right.
Or for what, I don't know at the time. I didn't understand it. But now that I'm an adult, I understand the fact that I was foreseeing my own future. Seeing that it was going to happen.
Going kind of off topic of what we're doing here is something that just kind of came in my head right now. But fatherhood is something that's important to you.
Right.
And living in the areas that you live in, fathers are less likely to be around.
Right.
What is important to you about being a father, and why is it, what is like the certain things you've instilled inside of your kids, and what can we do as a community to kind of, raise fathers up inside of our community to help them because their kids really need them?
Well, I grew up without a father. My father left us when we were kids. Did the whole walking out on us with another woman.
Right.
And I hated him for that, man. And I never wanted to be like him. I said to myself when I was a kid, I'm not going to be like my dad. If I ever have children, I'm going to be a father for my, to my children. And I kept that, so I think I've raised, I have 3 adult children, and I think I raised them pretty well and pretty level-headed kids, and now I'm going on part 2 with 3 stepchildren. And I try to do my best to, to direct them in the right way, because I have that street knowledge and everything. I was raised in a family. My mother was a dope dealer.
Right.
And she introduced us to drugs when we were in our preteens, 12 and 13 years old. So with other kids, they had to sneak somewhere to go get high or drink. We were allowed to do it right there because our mom got high and she drank with us. So we're
like, dude, you have such a powerful story. What made you want to break the cycle, and not only break the cycle, but break the cycle within your own kids? Like, what was it that made you say, like, I'm not doing this? Like, I'm not going to let this happen.
I think I knew the difference between what was right and what was wrong.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, but I have like that. Even though I do this one-on-one thing with the gangs and everything like that, they kind of rubbed off on me. I don't let anyone pull my card. If you're going to come up and sock me, you're going to get socked back. We'll fight in the middle of the damn street. I don't care. You're not going to pull my card. I will die for my cause. It doesn't make no difference to me. You want to come up and end my life, and that's okay with me. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to beg you for it. It's just how I think it's like part of that native thing in our blood, in my blood.
So how has poetry helped you create awareness for your cause? The poem you read earlier was absolutely beautiful, and there's a ton more that, if it's okay with you, we'll post it on our website too, so people can check it out. But you got some beautiful words, man. What inspires you with your poetry, and how has it helped you create awareness?
I write what I see going on around me. Like it's like the poem Chicano Park,
right?
Passing through Chicano Park on the Barrio Unity Walk, and going to the kiosko, the stage, and saying a little prayer and giving my respects to the 4 directions. Chicano Park was very influential in my life, so that's why I wrote the poem Chicano Park, along with a bunch of other poems. I write poems about, just different things like racist police. When I was doing the Barrio Unity Walk, which was a good thing for the community and stuff like that, and a good thing for the people, and a good thing for La Raza, it wasn't always a good thing for those who wear badges. They didn't like it.
Right.
I was treated with a mild neglect by members of the San Diego Police Department, and I've had to file a couple complaints against those who had tried to racial profile me.
Right.
Treat me like crap as I was doing something very positive. I've had a couple officers make racist remarks about the flag. Ain't Cinco de Mayo, why are you carrying a flag? Last time I checked, this was the United States, not Mexico. And
let's get into that, because when you did the Sunday walks, the Mexican flag was your way of creating unity.
Yeah, the Mexican flag was a tool that I used to promote unity between the warring factions of the Chicano gangs. I wasn't trying to start a revolution. Right. I wasn't trying to defy the whole meaning of patriotism in the United States, because of the fact, not only I've had a lot of I guess I call them warrior holics, people that admired what I would do with the Unity Walk and everything.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of them that were vets, from Vietnam and the Gulf War. And there was this one Vietnam vet that used to tell me, he used to really dig what I did with the flag and everything. But he used to always tell me, Lucky, never disrespect the American flag, because we fought, we bled, and we died for that flag just as much as any other man, a white man, or anybody else who fought and died for this country. We fought and died too. And we brought the nightmares from other countries here too. That's true. He goes, do not deface that flag like some of these members of these so-called militant Mexican Che revolutionaries and stuff like that. Do not desecrate the flag, because my tears are on that flag, he says. And I always remembered that, and yeah.
That's powerful. But to me, it's really great that you found a symbol of hope within the Mexican flag, because your whole purpose, your whole mission is to end Chicano on Chicano violence. And what better way to do that than to shove in their face what exactly they're disgracing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
To me, it goes deeper than the colors of the green, white, and red. It's the eagle
Yes.
destroying the serpent. It's the it goes into our history as the Mexica people, you know, and we need to respect our roots, our motherland, and where we came from. We're like the largest of the red man nation before the Europeans came. I believe that the capital or the main capital of everything of the red nation was right there in Mexico with the ruins and the ancient people from there, and it just spread out from all the way to Canada down to the tip of Argentina.
Lucky, there's something I've been wondering about, because I often throughout the years when I would see you walk around in different areas, I would wonder, how is it that you were able to cross so many gang lines? Like, how did you earn their respect? I don't think just anybody can go out and be like, okay, today I'm going to be in Shelton, or today I'm going to be in Sherman, and I just don't see that often. How were you able to do that?
I guess it was. I think in a way it was something that they were hoping for that would happen. That somebody would walk through their neighborhoods and represent them as a whole.
Right.
And to remind them that we are, that we are one raza, and that we shouldn't be fighting against each other. And I've never been disrespected by any of the gangs. I've been disrespected by many people, but they weren't actual hardcore gang members from any of them.
What about youngsters? What about youngsters?
Not even the youngsters either.
No?
Not even the youngsters. Your occasional wino or something like that, I've even been, to be honest with you, I was shot at one time, but it wasn't a member of our group at all. And this was during the big, immigration reform protests that were going on. So there was a lot of haters there.
Yeah.
And, just happened to show up.
It's funny how when things like that go on, all these little people come out of the woodworks. Like,
exactly.
Where do you come from?
With their hate.
Yeah.
And just because I was carrying this flag with a whole different purpose,
right,
they were like venting on me too. And I would look at them and say, hey, I'm not about that form stuff. I'm walking for barrio unity with my colors.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. So what are some of the issues you see the youth struggling with right now on the streets for them to deal with, One of the things you were talking about is the drive-by shootings and stuff like that. But what else are you seeing youth, struggling with that we got to kind of, help them out with?
I think the city's neglecting a lot of different parts of San Diego. They need to develop more recreational type programs, mentoring programs in our neighborhoods. There's not enough of that.
Yeah.
Athletic type programs. Set up these little, I think some of these people that are sports figures really do need to come back into their neighborhoods and try to help out. There's not enough. And if they do come into our neighborhoods, they just do it for publicity, or they're doing it I don't think they do it from their heart. I don't know too many that actually just jump into their car one day and say, hey, babe, I'll be back. I'm going to go to the hood and take a bunch of kids to a restaurant or something like that, or buy them some shoes, or talk to them about staying out of trouble.
And that kind of goes from a couple weeks ago when we had Dennis Martinez on the show, and he was talking about one of the things they do with their program is, he looks for people that have gone into the community, helped create the mess that we have today. But what better way to create unity or to create change in the community by having those same people go back and help clean it up, help talk to the youth, help do stuff like that to help create a different culture, a different mind frame for our youth. Because I think that's what's really needed in our community right now. Especially, you hit the nail right on the head right there. We need more athletic programs, more things for one of the greatest programs we have in San Diego, and they struggle almost every single year to continue to keep their doors open, is the Barrio Station right there in Barrio Logan. They teach you kids how to box, how to take their aggression out on a bag instead of, going and shooting somebody in the head or something like that. They also got the community pool right there. I mean, so many different things, but yet, they're not getting any county funding or anything like that. They're literally keeping their doors open because of a dinner that they have once a year, and the community comes and puts $100 for a plate of food to help build this beautiful program and keep the doors open. And we need more of that, man. We need more of that. And people, I think people, I was talking to Beverly about this earlier, I think people kind of overlook Southeast San Diego in a way. You know, they think of San Diego as this beautiful tourist place, and, you know, La Jolla, downtown, Del Mar, Solana Beach, North County, pretty much, you know, anything past the 8, but everything lower than the 8, don't go there. Don't worry about it.
I don't know how many times, I can't even remember how many times I've met when I was in Chicano Park, you know, continuing the walk, I would meet tourists, and they would tell me, God, this is such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
They don't tell us about this place.
Exactly.
So they said, we know about the ballpark, we know about going to go see the Chargers at San Diego Zoo, but what is this place? It's Chicano Park.
Right.
You know, this beautiful place with murals and everything, snapping pictures and just being happy being there, you know. I was like, really? They don't tell you about this place, this whole tourism thing? Like, no. If anything, they tell us not to go into your guys' part of town. I was like, what the heck?
And you would think like we have, what's that?
Racism alive and well, man.
What's that orange thing we have, the Old Town tours or whatever? That should be one of the first spots when they pick you up in downtown. Chicano Park should be one of the very first spots.
I see that little trolley thing just rush onto the bridge.
Coronado Bridge.
Let's get out of here. Let's get out of this is Chicano Park. We need to go.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's the other thing too, man. Is inside of Southeast San Diego, you actually see people going to the parks, and kids playing in the parks, and families chilling together and stuff like that. To where if you go to other communities in San Diego, you'll see the parks absolutely empty, and kids would rather be playing video games and doing stuff like that. You know, so there's so much beauty inside of an area that has so much poverty and so much, you know, quote unquote, anytime they're in the media or the news, it's because of the violence. But there's so much beautiful stuff going on there. There's so much, you know, there's a sense of community that goes on there. But what is it that we need to do to help make it to where it's easier for kids to pick up a book or empower themselves in another way besides picking up a weapon? You know, what are some strategies or some things that we can offer to the community for anybody who might be listening right now that might have the funds to fund a program in Southeast San Diego to kind of create some change in the community? What is it that you would want to see?
Exactly what you were saying. There needs to be more of these programs set up in different parts of in San Diego, because there's a lot of families that are like generations from maybe National City or generations from Shelltown, generations from Sherman, and not because of the whole crossing the gang lines, they want something like Barrio Station in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they can enjoy that in their neighborhood. That's where their mindset is.
And we should give it to them.
Yeah.
Straight up. We should give it to them, because what better, that's just telling them they want to take a sense of pride in their community. Bring us this program in our community so we can bring, you know, beautiful things to our community.
Right.
I guess you could say it's a little different from, you know, let's go pick up a gun and shoot somebody over there. No, screw that. Let's make our community center better than theirs.
Right.
You know, something so simple like that would go a long way. So you know, before we let you go, man, you know, tell us a little bit more about your son, Bam Bam Morales, and, you know, did he have any local fights coming up or anything like that? Or
well, right now he's working on his blue belt.
Okay.
So, and then after he earns his blue belt, then he's going to be looking into some more cage matches. But I'm very proud of my son, Bam Bam.
Yeah.
He's grown up around. He's seen a lot of stuff in regards to family members and stuff like that. People dying behind of drug addiction, or just dying, you know, because of the whole barrio politics. And he's learned how to redirect a lot of his frustration through showing an interest in MMA cage fighting. You know, so he's very proud of what he does, and I'm proud of him, because we have like this little phrase that we use for him, and it's Luis Bam Bam Morales, from the barrio to the octagon, or from the barrio to the UFC.
Right.
SSD to the UFC.
Right.
You know, and I'm proud of him because he's like he's kind of like a mini me, you know, but on a different level. I have the walk, he walks to the steel cage.
Right.
You know.
And see, that's the reason why I had to bring up fatherhood earlier, is because the other day when you were talking on the phone, when you were mentioning your son, even though I was on the phone with you, I could feel that you had like so much passion about, you know, what my son's doing, how much, you know, the great things that he's doing that's different from what other people are doing in the community.
Well, I have two other children that I'm very proud of too. I have a son that's older than Bam Bam. His name is Caesar, and he's one of the greatest cartoon anime artists that I've ever seen, that I've ever known. And that's my That's my opinion from what I've seen with other artists. He loves Japanese anime.
Right.
And he loves to draw comic strips and small
That's awesome.
books and stuff like that. And I also call him my Mr. Spock because he speaks knowledge on a level that surpasses me, you know. Sometimes when I need answers, like going to the wise man, I'll say, "Hey, Caesar, let me tell you something," and he'll give me like the solution to what I'm asking him.
Right.
You know, so I call him my Mr. Spock. You know, he's so smart.
See, it's just great for me because I'm involved with a lot of the different fatherhood initiatives that we've had here in San Diego, and I see a lot of the need that we need for fathers. You know, fathers need to step up to the plate. And when I hear a father, you know, somebody on the phone is telling me great things about their kids, and I can feel their passion through it, it honestly gives me like it makes me smile, man, because we need more of that in our society.
I'm proud of Bam Bam, but he pisses me off a lot because sometimes he doesn't know how to handle relationships. You know, he's a young father. I have a granddaughter behind him, and there's sometimes I need to put him in check when he's kind of like, you know.
That's the beautiful thing, though, is that you're there to do that. You know what I'm saying?
And I think he does. Yeah, he appreciates it.
Oh, hell yeah, he has to. Imagine you can't even imagine how many kids don't have their dad to go to and talk to about, you know, or have their dad to put them in check about something because their dad's not there.
Yeah.
You know
I have an older daughter, too. She's my oldest. I have three. My oldest, her name is Monique. She's 28 years old. She lives in Fort Walton, Florida.
Dang, so 3 kids, and then now you got 3 more kids, right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, her husband's in the military. I have this beautiful painting that he did, and it's me. It's like me with my bandana,
right?
And in the background, green, white, and red. You know, and it's like this huge like portrait that he did for me. And this guy's in the United States Navy, drawing, you know, raza stuff for his father-in-law. You know, because he respects what I do. You know, for the community and for La Raza. You know, because I don't forget that some of our greatest, most decorated heroes are Hispanic or men of Mexican descent.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that we were the people to receive the most medals of honor or the most medals of bravery from the Civil War to Vietnam.
What does it mean to you to be considered the modern day warrior?
I don't know. I think it's a pretty cool name, but to be honest with you, I don't really consider myself or try to be anybody's role model, because to be honest with you, when I'm good, and when I'm bad, I'm bad. So I don't. If anything, I want to set is the example as a messenger. You know, someone who takes the message to the people about reminding our raza what we need to do or how we need to check ourselves.
Right.
You know, but for someone to role model themselves after me or something like that, I'm kind of like on the fence about that, because I deal a lot with the media, and I know the media is like a two-headed coin.
Sure.
KUSI's been there to support me for like 20 years or more, off and on. But I know the first time I mess up, they'll be right there to exploit me too.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
Lucky. A lot of us, we always see you out there. We've been seeing you out there for years on Highland and different areas. But a lot of people don't know that you also have a full-time job. I mean, and the type of job you have, I feel personally, it takes somebody with a special heart for certain jobs. Tell us a little bit about what you do for a living.
I'm a residential specialist, behavioral tech. I work with adults with developmental disabilities. I've been doing that off and on for like 20 years or so, long time. I took a small break and I worked at Walmart for about 6 years, but it was because of stress.
You had to take, yeah. Trust me, we're in the mental health field.
I worked at a transitional living facility at one time for adults with mental illness,
yeah.
And I had a coworker that used to always, when I used to always leave from my shift, she used to always help me with my backpack, put my backpack on my back, and she used to tell me to be safe. And then one day she died, you know, and that kind of stressed me out, you know, her dying like that, because she was such a good person. So I took a break from, you know, doing the whole social services thing, jumped into Walmart, and then went back into social services. But the reason why I show a strong interest in adults with developmental disabilities, because my son Caesar, who's the artist, has mild autism. He has Asperger's syndrome. I guess I pronounced that right. I don't know.
You got it right. You got it right. I have a sibling that has the same challenge.
Okay. He's autistic, and I see a lot of his behaviors, and I have the patience for that because I've been when he was a baby to manhood, still right there with the same thing, and I have the patience to deal with that. So I took it from having my own child, dealing with my own child, to wanting to work with other people with developmental disabilities.
Wow.
Well, not only that, when I was growing up as a teenager, I had friends that were blind. I had a really good friend who was hearing impaired. His name was Troy Mendez.
So once again, when you were young, you, instead of following what other people would and kind of like, I'm not going to hang out with that person because they're different, you went to them.
Oh yeah. I used to have a really good friend. His name was Christopher Lane. He was a Filipino dude, and we used to call him Bo.
Right.
We were like all into when I was growing up in Del Sol, and I didn't get into the cholo thing. I was a stoner, a rock and roll kid. I was into like Zeppelin and stuff like that, and hanging around with just different people, like white dudes. Everyone that wanted to be stoner, we all hung together.
Right.
And one of them was a Filipino kid, and we called him Bo, and he was in a wheelchair, and we used to push him all over Del Sol, go for parties and stuff like that. And it's kind of funny, but we used to all party and stuff. He used to get so drunk, he used to slide off his chair, and we used to have to take him home, and his mom would get mad. You got my son drunk. No, he did.
And what's behind the name Lucky Two Tears?
I got the name Two Tears many years ago from a Lakota. Yeah, his name was Javier.
For our listeners,
from the Sioux Nation, Lakota Sioux.
And the name Lucky kind of came with you at birth, right?
Yes, I was born Friday the 13th, and I was born 7/11.
And we got Friday the 13th. Right?
Yeah, isn't that a trip? It comes full circle. That's really cool, huh?
That is.
And then this coming March 13th, my birthday falls on Friday the 13th. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm going to go to this big heavy metal festival for that.
Yeah.
3 days of headbanging.
Oh,
That's a tribute, because I grew up and show a strong interest in what goes on in the barrio, but I've always been a rock and roll person.
So your birth name was Lucky.
Yes.
Again, the Two Tears comes from?
Came from my Lakota brother later on, when I was in my early 20s.
What does that mean?
So I just, Two Tears, that's what he used to call me, because I had these 2 tears since I was very young, which symbolizes the loss of a brother that I had that died from pneumonia, and my father who stepped out on us when we were kids. So that's what the tears stand for. Some people think it's like doing time or how many people you killed and stuff like that. But I learned in certain native tribes, they use it as a way of forever mourning.
So do all your tattoos have meaning? A certain meaning to them?
Oh, yeah. They're just not your everyday going to the tattoo parlor and pick them out from the wall or from the book. I create all my own stuff, and I have a native brother that brands me with what I draw.
Yeah.
So I got these ones right here on the shin. They're healing. These are the newest ones.
So what do some of the tattoos mean?
They just stand for different things. That, like right here on my right arm, it says Sacred Crow, and the crow is my animal totem.
Okay.
I don't know if you're open-minded enough to understand that sometimes animals communicate with us or send us messages, and I have many really close encounters with crow. So I've come to know that that's my animal totem that's reminding me of what I need to do and how I need to follow my path. Like that one time, Justin, remember the crow was really close speaking to me. There was this one crow that was like really close, and the neighbor thought that she was mine. He asked me in Spanish, "Is that yours?" And I said, "No." And he was telling me in Spanish, "She's talking to you." I'm like, "Yeah." So I try to feed her, distract her with some food to see if she'd go chase it. And she looked at the food and just kept looking at me, just like caw, 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 doing her thing.
So the reason I'm asking is because a lot of people will be judgmental or provide a stigma right off the bat because they see you all tatted up. And I mean, even me, I got tattoos of my kids, but people see this and they're like, "Oh, someone died," or they automatically assume that you're a bad person because you're sleeved up or whatever. But they don't really understand that each one of those tattoos has a specific meaning and tells a certain story.
When people see my tattoos, they don't compare them to the gangster cholo style tattoos with the naked women and 2 chicks kissing and prison bars and stuff like that. Mine are of indigenous.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They speak out to me. Like the one on the wrist, I want to know what that means right there.
This right here is symbol of the Pima Nation, of my people, the Pima Nation. And the crow skull, sacred crow. And 18 rabbit is a tribute to our ancient Maya roots.
It's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Thanks. The reason I'm asking that is because everybody, watching on the camera. What about the beads, man? What do the beads have a meaning to you?
Oh, I made these. I made this necklace. I make my own stuff. I'm not a jewelry store person. I made this many moons ago when my kids were young. I have my medicine pouch on here, and inside my medicine pouch are strands of my children's hair, and my godchildren and my woman.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, before she went to the Philippines, I was like really sad, and I didn't want nothing to happen to her while she was gone, thousands of miles away. Oh, babe, give me a lock of your hair. Put it in there and keep her safe while she's not with me.
So before we let you go, man, do you have any final words of wisdom? Anything you'd like to share with folks out there? How they can get in contact with you? How they can, empower you?
Hit me up on Facebook.
Okay, how do they do that?
If you have a Facebook account, just type in Lucky Morales.
Okay.
And then in parentheses, you'll see 2 tiers right after Lucky Morales. And just friend me right there or send me a message. I welcome haters too. Haters are people. To me, haters are people that are jealous of not being able to do what other people have the balls to do. That's you know true. What I mean? So they hate. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to create their own way of doing things in order to impact people, they just hate on you because I think it's just ignorance.
Right. No, I agree.
And haters come in all different colors.
That's true.
Yeah.
So what's one last message you want to send out if there's youth listening right now? What would you say to them besides picking up a gun, picking up a knife to hurt somebody? What is one message you would tell them about?
I would tell them to man
coming
up.
together?
I would tell them to man up. Some of them that would use the excuse of, I grew up in the neighborhood and it's tough here and this and that and I got to. So did I.
Yeah.
My mother was a dope dealer. When we were growing up, we learned how to. My mother was a dope dealer and her boyfriend was former military. So he taught us how to use guns. But we never walked out in the streets with these guns. We never showed them off. We never went out there and shot them off or anything because we knew the proper discipline of handling a weapon. Okay. But I don't advocate using a gun. I rather have someone settle their problems with their fists. Because I never had to shoot anybody. I never had to shoot or wanted to shoot anyone.
Well, the realistic thing is that if both people settled their dispute between their fists, I mean, realistically, we would want them to have a conversation and settle their dispute that way.
Yeah.
But in a real world, people
are going to go toe to toe.
And rather pick up a gun, at least tomorrow you'll be able to talk it out after you guys knock each other out.
You could walk away from an ass kicking.
Right. That's true.
Get up and brush yourself off, and and
at least you're there for another day. Yeah.
Yeah. That's no matter how tough you are, there's always someone out there who's tougher than you. That's one thing I learned too.
But I think what you just said right there, that exact statement is a fear that a lot of youngsters are dealing with, and which is why it's so easy for them to want to pick up a gun, because then that makes them the ultimate badass compared to.
No, it doesn't make them the ultimate badass. Right. It makes them the ultimate coward. Because I have my 13-year-old stepson right here, and I could put a gun in his hand and show him how to point and shoot somebody, and it doesn't make him doesn't make him a tough guy or a man. It makes him a coward because he would solve his problem with a gun.
Do you feel like a lot of people are using a gun to well, we already established that, because they're afraid to get their ass kicked, but at the same time, do you think it's because they're afraid to show like any kind of feeling, any kind of emotion, and by shooting people or whatever, it helps create a emotion that's not there? They don't show any emotion. They're cold in their eyes. They don't have any feeling anymore. So the pain of day-to-day life is just gone.
You wouldn't be surprised how many people are peer pressured to shoot someone.
Oh, I know, man.
Yeah. And you wouldn't believe the fear behind the hand that pulls the trigger.
In some cases, I've heard of some cases where a person has told me. In fact, I've had people on Facebook get on me about me saying how people are cowards when they're using guns. But I've had people tell me that it's not, that I don't understand. I don't understand that, that's the way they live and that's the way they're going to do
But
it.
very few shooters
Their
can go out
father
there.
put it in their hand or something like that.
But if you think about it, because I've been working with gangs for many, many months.
Right.
And very few shooters actually will go out and shoot someone completely sober. They have to go get high first, or go get drunk or something to get that little extra
Liquid courage.
There you go, liquid courage or narcotic courage going, stuff like that. That's the majority of the time. I've met some guys that would shoot you completely sober, but they're not here anymore. They lived by the gun and they died by the gun.
That's a sad thing.
Yeah.
Really sad. So Lucky, I really enjoyed listening to your poetry. Can I look forward to more of that in the future?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want us to ever post to on the
I just
website?
have to go blow the dust off of it and practice a little bit because I'm kind of rusty.
Yeah.
I used to hit the coffee shops and everything for a long time. I was doing open mic in Barrio Sherman. There was this place called Cafe. What was it called? It was Chicano Perk. It was a Chicano coffee house. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Right there in Barrio Sherman, just right off of 25th and Imperial. And I used to do the open mic there, with other poets. And we used to have a good time. And in '96, during the first year of the walk, there was this little Chicano coffee shop on Highland Avenue called, what was it called? It was Cafe Mexica. And we used to have this poetry on the patio, which was every Monday. And that's what kind of inspired me to start doing the walk. I was like, hey, it'd be pretty cool if I walked against gang violence and ended my walk right here at the Cafe Mexica.
Okay.
So I came up with this idea, actually with the whole flag. I used to have a pager back in the day.
Right.
And I used to pay my pager bill at this place called El Echondos on Imperial Avenue, just right in the 25th area. And when I was in there paying my pager bill, there was some little flags that were in this bucket, little Mexican flags. And I asked the guy, how much? And he goes, for you $1. And I go, cool. And I bought one. And I remember I was walking home with this flag. And I just had the flag like this on walking, and people started honking. Like that. And I go, that's a trip. And that's when I came up with the idea, maybe I should walk for Barrio Unity with a Mexican flag, but 10 times larger.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired me.
Yeah.
And I had carried that little Mexican flag down Imperial Avenue.
All right, man. So before we let you go, before we end today's interview, just let one last thing to leave our listeners with. Let us know in one sentence or less, if you could, why is ending Chicano violence so important to you?
Because we're all connected. We're all intertwined.
Definitely. So I guess, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of ended it the way we began it right there, but that message right there runs really, really deep. And I really hope you guys took advantage of today's conversation with Lucky Two Tears Morales here on Thrivecast.net. And we'll definitely get ready to see you guys next week, 3 p.m. Pacific time, every single day, Monday through Friday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day, and bye-bye.
Just